Thank you, Harold, for starting recording. All right, take it away, Christine and Chantal.
Alrighty, hello everybody. Welcome to our week 6 general meeting. Today, Chantal and I will be your intro PowerPoint speakers. So there are 4 easy steps to become a paid member. So first you want to fill out the PPS membership form, and then you can go ahead and pay our membership fee via our Venmo at pps@uci. And then thirdly, email our internal vice president, Alyssa Mills, at the following email to pick up your member exclusive t-shirt. And finally, you can view your stamp count anytime during the quarter with our virtual stamp sheet. All of the necessary links are available on this PowerPoint and in our weekly emails. So our pharmacy topic of the week is World Antimicrobial Awareness Week, starting today. So what is antimicrobial resistance, or AMR? AMR is a natural phenomenon that occurs in various microorganisms, resulting in these bugs evolving following exposure to a microbial agent. And then the drug is no longer effective once these bugs are become resistant to the drug. So how do the microorganisms such as bacteria or viruses and parasites acquire the resistance? They are able to do so via different mechanisms. For example, in bacteria, they are able to inactivate the antibiotic by producing enzymes that could cleave the drug, or they could pump out the antibiotic physically via drug efflux. And in viruses, they are able to do this by mutations, for example, like amino acid substitutions, deletions, and insertions. So the purpose of World Antimicrobial Awareness Week is to raise awareness of global antimicrobial resistance. And some goals that the World Health Organization has brought forth to prevent the spread of drug-resistant infections includes encouraging proper health practice among the general public, health workers, and policymakers, as well as increased monitoring and research, and making best use of antimicrobial medications. So if you want to learn more about antimicrobial resistance, you can click on the peach-colored link below. So to recap last week, thank you all for coming on out to our week 5 journal meeting with University of Southern California's Academy of Managed Care Pharmacy with Ms. Tina Golami. We hope you learned lots about managed care pharmacy and their pre-pharmacy managed care, their pre-pharmacy program. And to recap last Saturday, thank you all for coming out to our USC visit with Mr. Dabini, Ms. Allison Bryant, and current USC P1, P2 students. We hope you learned a bit more about their curriculum and what they have to offer, especially if you are planning to apply to USC in the future. And now our lovely secretary will introduce our upcoming events.
Okay, hello everybody. So an upcoming event that we have is our week 7 general meeting, which will be on next Wednesday on November 18th from 6 to 7 p.m. via Zoom. And you should come because you can learn how to schedule your classes and upcoming courses that you have with our own board members. For example, they'll be showing their 4-year plans. So if you're unaware or if you're unsure of how to schedule for your courses this upcoming year, then you should definitely join our event. So if you're interested, paid members will receive a stamp for attending. And if you have any questions, comments, or concerns, please contact our external vice president, Dana, at the following email.
Hi, I'm just going to pop in really quick and say that we'll be sharing tips and tricks on how to prepare for pharmacy school. So definitely come out and check out our meeting. Yeah.
So hello everyone, it's Ryan, your fundraising chair here. So following couple of slides will be about the events, fundraising events that we'll continue to do. So we're currently planning to have, so we're collaborating with pubs to post a potential fall restaurant fundraiser. And so where we can purchase takeout at local restaurants and a part of the restaurant profit will donate to both of our organizations. And just to let you know that we are also considering NorCal restaurants, although we currently have kind of one SoCal restaurant on set. So if you're interested, if you're in NorCal, but you're still interested in participating in restaurant fundraiser, please let us know, because it is really important to fill, if you can fill in the interest form. So to let us know that around how many people are going to attend, and it will really determine the outcome of the event. So if you have any further questions or concerns, please feel free to email me at kwokth@uci.edu. Thank you. So second, we now, our second episode of the ZOTR's podcast is up on the 8 platforms of that we post our podcast episodes. So for this particular episode, we have Dr. Tu Tran, who graduated from UCI in 2009 and got his PharmD at Midwestern University. He was inspired by his relatives to pursue a career in pharmacy, and with multiple challenges that came along his way during his years at UCI and Midwestern, he was able to find himself interested in acute care pharmacy and developed his career path greatly through his residency experience. So he's also currently employed as a pharmacy manager at the Memorial Care Long Beach Medical Center. So make sure you guys check it out. I think he gave some great insights into from turning, if you're unsure about which healthcare are you going to, because he was originally pre-med. So I think his content is definitely very good. So if you have any questions or concerns, please also feel free to email me about that. And yeah, stay tuned to our announcements in the future. So last but not least, we have our sticker fundraisers. It will be $2 per stickers for these very cute stickers designed by our publicity chair, Christine, and it will be free shipping, or you can inform us to pick up. So the form for the purchase form will be on the our email, and as long as you fill in the purchase form and pay for the stickers, then we'll send you a confirmation email we'll send you a confirmation email and then contact you about how we're going to deliver the stickers to you. And as always, if you have any questions about that too, please feel free to email me.
Hello, everybody. It's me again. So we're excited to launch our PPS sweaters, if you haven't seen the email already. So we have one design on the back side. So if you're interested and want to grab your own sweater, you can fill out our sweater pre-order form via the link on the slides or in our emails, and then complete your payment to our Venmo, and then you'll receive an email order confirmation. If you have any additional questions or concerns about delivery or pickup or the sweater itself, you can feel free to contact me through my email listed here. Thank you.
So another upcoming event that we have is our KGI virtual visit. And if our internal Vice President Ali wants to speak more on that, I'll let her.
Hi, everyone. So for our upcoming virtual visit, this will be on Saturday, November 21st from 10 a.m. to 12 p.m. And we will be taking our virtual trip to KGI, the Kett Graduate Institute School of Pharmacy and Health Sciences. This is a really good opportunity for you to learn more about their PharmD program and interact with their panel of students and alumni. And if you just really want to hear about what they have to offer you, especially during this time. So the location will be on Zoom as usual, very fun. If you're interested, please fill out the Google form by Wednesday, November 18th at 11:59 p.m. And the location will be sent to you in a separate follow-up email. If you have any questions, comments, or concerns, please don't hesitate to contact me, and I hope to see you there. Thank you. And also, thank you so much for all of those who have applied to our board intern program. I just want to give a very appreciative thank you. We are receiving applications and I can't wait to see you guys for your interviews. So good luck.
Okay, so a volunteering event that we have is our Orange County Pharmacist Association Pharmacy Volunteer Opportunity. So this is a great opportunity to earn volunteer experience at a local or community pharmacy located in Orange County. So if you're interested, you can fill out this Google interest form here. It will also be available in this presentation later on when it's presented and when it's available, and also in our previous email. So just for clarification, please note that the spots are limited and that completing the form is not a guarantee. So if you have any other questions or concerns, please email our president, Jenny. Another volunteering opportunity that we have is the free rice opportunity that you've probably heard us speak about a lot. So Free Rice is a website that helps you donate to the World Food Program via answering trivia questions as rice, so that it translates to currency through ad revenue. And their goal is to end hunger, achieve food security, and improve nutrition by 2020. And it's a great way to raise money and make a difference to those in need. And you can perform this anytime that you want during your free time. And we hope that you can continue doing this opportunity throughout the year, even when PPS stops promoting it and when it's beyond our deadline. And speaking of deadlines, the deadline to receive a stamp for this opportunity is tonight at 11:59 p.m. And you can fill out the Google form if you haven't already to earn that stamp. And if you have any other questions, comments, or concerns, please email our president, Jenny.
Hi, everyone. So Tyler is typically the one that presents this slide, but he just let me know that he's running late, so I'll be covering for him. So this is an upcoming event we have. It's called Pre-Pharmacy Day. We have it every year. Unfortunately, this year it's going to be virtual due to the circumstances, but we're still going to try our best to bring these great opportunities to our members and also students from other schools. This event is on Saturday, January 16th, 2021, so in the upcoming winter, and it will be held from 9 a.m. to 12:30 on Zoom. This is a great opportunity for students to get to know all the other programs, aside from the ones that we already present or the ones that we hold visits for. We have about 15 schools coming to us this year on Zoom, and they will be presenting about their program, sharing what makes them unique and such. So this is a great opportunity for you to network with them, just learn about the other programs, maybe see what you think you would be interested in, maybe what you're not interested in. And if you have any specific questions for each of the programs, you can ask them as well, because the representatives will be there to help you. And if you're interested, you can fill out our Google form, which can be found on this slide or also in our previous emails. And if you have any questions, comments, or concerns, you can contact our ambassador, Tyler, at this email. Thank you.
And another upcoming event that we have is our Winter Retreat. This will be taking place over Zoom. So this is on Sunday, December 20th, spanning from 3 p.m. to 8:15 p.m. If you're interested, you can fill out the Google form by December 19th at 11:59 p.m. Paid members will receive a stamp for attending. So really fun, really cool. It's a really good opportunity for you to bond with your fellow PPS members and to just kind of create this connection while we are in quarantine and Zoom school. So it's very fun. If you have any questions, comments, or concerns, feel free to reach out to me as well. And yeah, I hope to see you there.
To stay up to date with our future events, you can stay connected with us via our social media through Facebook, Instagram, our website, or Discord. We also have our 24/7 available Zoom study room for you to use, especially since midterms are coming up. So it's a great opportunity. And so, yeah. And without further ado, we would like to welcome our guest speaker for today, Dr. Tony Park.
Thank you. I'm going to try to attempt to share my screen. What that means, I'm going to stop the other screen from sharing. Let's see. Aha, I think that worked. Can you see my slide? Yes?
Yes, we
All right.
can.
Thank you very much. Thank you for inviting me. I really appreciate the opportunity. I really enjoy talking to future and actual current pharmacy students in California. Now that California has 13 schools of pharmacy, UCI being the most recent, my goodness, there's lots of opportunities to speak to future professionals that will directly impact the profession of pharmacy as we know it. So the purpose of me spending time with you for the next 35-ish minutes is basically to share my experience on how it is that I became what I am today, which is a PharmD JD, which is essentially a pharmacy doctor and a Juris Doctor, a pharmacist and a lawyer, essentially. So just kind of jumping right into it, I became, well, by way of an aside, I was actually a music performance major for violin when I was at the University of the Pacific in the Conservatory of Music. And long story short, I wasn't quite sure if I was going to become a bartender or a pharmacist at the time. There was once a day that I was very far removed from what I am today. But anyway, be that as it may, I decided to obviously not take up bartending and go to pharmacy school instead. While I was a music major and playing my violin at the University of the Pacific Conservatory of Music, the viola player convinced me to go into pharmacy school, who happened to be one of the professors in the pharmacy school on the other side of the campus. And so kind of on a whim, I decided, sure, I'll apply, see what happens. And sure enough, I had enough science units under my belt to get in. And in fact, that's how I became a pharmacist. Not that I had this burning compulsion to become a PharmD or practice in the realm of pharmacy. It's just that it was a little bit better than bartending at the time. Not to demean the profession, because I would never do that. I'm just saying that my life circumstance, which was probably incredibly unusual, I think from the very outset, may have been an indication of a foreshadowing of things to come in the future as I find myself doing completely something different and radically unpredicted from my days in pharmacy school. So while I was in pharmacy school at the University of the Pacific, my final didactic lecture semester, I did an independent study with my then pharmacy law professor, Dr. Richard Aboud, and the independent study had to do specifically with drug products liability. So if a pharmaceutical manufacturer makes a drug that ends up hurting a lot of people, what are the legal implications and ramifications of that? And it was a self-study, but that was really for the first time the idea that I might be able to sort of meld and incorporate law with pharmacy kind of formed in my mind. That was the initial spark, the genesis of the idea that maybe I can do something with this combination. So but after I graduated from pharmacy school, I didn't go to law school. I ended up working for a chain drugstore. My poison happened to be Walgreens. And so I did that for about a year. And I became a pharmacy manager. And I decided for me, the chain drugstore experience wasn't quite what I thought it was going to be. So I decided to do something totally different. And at the time looking around, I decided to do pharmaceutical compounding, which it's done quite frequently now. I'm sure some of you that actually have some measure of exposure to pharmacy may have seen some degree of non-sterile compounding, just mixing drugs kind of on the fly pursuant to a prescription order. But I committed to an entire business to just compounding, which included sterile compounding. So, and that was back in late 90s, early 2000s when I did that. And then I kind of found myself in this repeated pattern of opening up businesses related to the practice of pharmacy. So my first business was the compounding only pharmacy, which ended up getting a license as a sterile compounding facility. Then I became the business owner of a Hispanic community pharmacy in the city of Oxnard, where I converted a very, let's say, Anglo-Saxon friendly Pleasant Valley Pharmacy was the name of a pharmacy in the city of Oxnard in the strip mall where all the neighbors had signs in Spanish. I turned that pharmacy into a Hispanic community pharmacy, and I changed the name to Farmacia Estrella, Star Pharmacy. And then I found myself creating a third business venture having to do with various aspects of drug wholesaling and home care for hemophilia patients, specialty drugs, patient advocacy, insurance billing agencies. I pretty much spread myself very, very thin in all these different types of pharmacy experiences and ownership experiences. And then everything came to kind of a screeching halt when I thought, okay, I've had my fill of pharmacy, and this was about 12 years after I graduated from UOP. And just my life circumstance at the time just really lent itself to going back to my independent study at UOP and thinking, maybe now is a good time to really kind of get into this whole law thing and see if I can't make some work out of that. So I ended up selling all my businesses and moved to Michigan, where I ended up going to the Western University of Michigan Thomas M. Cooley School of Law. So I did a two-year accelerated law school program there, and I graduated, and then I ended up coming back to California. And then after I came back to California, I sort of had this idea that maybe I can help my colleagues who find themselves oftentimes in trouble with various government agencies, whether that be the Board of Pharmacy or the DEA or Medi-Cal people, the Department of Healthcare Services. I have listed here the CMS, the Centers for Medicaid Services. There's lots of opportunities, if you will, for pharmacists to get in trouble with the government. And so, and that idea first came to me while I was in law school, where my colleagues that had left back in California, I was attending law school in Michigan at the time. They would call me periodically and saying, "Hey, I hear you're in law school. I've got this problem. Can you help me?" And so before I'd even graduated from law school, my colleagues were reaching out to me for desperately needed help. And quite frankly, there weren't that many pharmacy attorneys in California to do this type of representation work. There were less than a handful, but by and large, not many people do this. And so I thought, well, maybe that's a really good business opportunity to finally meld the practice of pharmacy and my experience in pharmacy in particular with this thing called law. And that's in fact what I did. I came back to California. I worked for a law firm down in San Diego for a year. I learned the practice of pharmacy law from my mentor, a gentleman by the name of John Cronin, who has since retired. And then from that point on, I've been knee deep in pharmacy law issues ever since. So after I did my 1 year stint, and quite frankly, the reason why I left that law firm was because my mentor decided that he was going to retire after a year. So there was no more reason for me to be down at the law firm. The law firm was actually primarily known for construction defect cases, which has nothing to do with pharmacy, but that one mentor of mine happened to be affiliated with that law firm. So I kind of did my time, and I learned as much as I could from my mentor to basically then open my own pharmacy law practice. And so what I did was, I opened up the law office of Tony J. Park Incorporated, doing business as California Pharmacy Lawyers Law Firm. So CPL, or the California Pharmacy Lawyers, is my law firm for which I am the principal attorney of, and I currently have 6 attorneys that work with me in my firm, and we do all sorts of work in pharmacy law. Then this next slide does a fairly general 50,000 foot level synopsis of what my typical day looks like. So it's not as if I'm in court all day long. In fact, quite frankly, most of the times I'm actually not in court. I think, first of all, whatever you see in TV and movies, that is not how law works in real life. So please, I sometimes get upset when my wife compares my job to the people in this TV show Suits. No, there's nothing like Suits in my daily existence as an attorney. So if I had to break down what my typical day looks like, it usually encompasses one of 3 types of activities and focuses in a typical day. Obviously, I do representation of pharmacists, pharmacies, drug wholesalers in California and outside of California, pharmacy students and interns, typically. By the way, now, from day one, you intern to pharmacy school and get your intern license. You are now fair game, if you will, to the Board of Pharmacy to attack that license and try to do something to take it away. The typical things that I find myself, or the attorneys that work with me in my law firm, when it comes to defending students and interns, are things that really you wouldn't think really have much to do with pharmacy law. Things like DUIs, things like petty theft and shoplifting. So you may think, well, what does that have to do with pharmacy law? In the world of pharmacy, the California State Board of Pharmacy, which is the state agency that gives you your license and grant you the privilege of practicing as a pharmacist in the state of California, that Board of Pharmacy places integrity, truthfulness, and honesty at the very top of the characteristics that they are looking for in a pharmacist to whom they grant licensure as a pharmacist. If you think about it, trust, honesty, and integrity, you would think that's just kind of basic, right? Common sense. It is immensely, monumentally important to a pharmacist, because most pharmacists stand all day long in a room full of drugs, controlled substances, opioids, drugs that are potentially, have potential for abuse and addiction. So it kind of makes sense if you now think of it from that standpoint. Look at the individual characteristics from that prism. Truthfulness, honesty, and integrity of character are a pair of paramount importance. To which the Board of Pharmacy says to an intern, if you can't even be trusted to not get behind the wheel after you had a couple of drinks, if you can't even be trusted to walk through a department store and not steal something, how in the world are we going to trust you in a room full of drugs all day long, for which there's going to be temptations left and right and wherever you turn? That's sort of like the mindset of the Board of Pharmacy that has. So just, by way of free legal counsel, if you find yourself of that ilk, that personality trait of perhaps, thinking it's okay to have a couple of beers, a couple of wines, or whatever, getting behind the wheel, you didn't hurt anybody, you didn't cause any property damage, it's very important to the Board of Pharmacy, even if you didn't do any damage at all. Again, it goes down to trustworthiness, honesty, and integrity of character. Same thing, obviously, with the shoplifting incidents. And I just use those two examples because those are the two most common reasons why interns get busted by the Board of Pharmacy. So representation work, and obviously when it comes to more serious cases of drug diversion or pharmacists, on the verge of losing the license because they really mess up, or unfortunately every now and again I do get cases where a pharmacist made a very careless, negligent mistake that ended up hurting, maybe even killing some people because of a medication error. Those situations, I work with the pharmacists and represent them to allow them to continue practicing as a pharmacist, despite the fact that they may, committed this horrendous mistake. So all my cases are, most of them are not fun per se, but I do greatly enjoy the process of helping my colleagues and my peers maintain their ability to practice in the profession that they love so much. So from that standpoint, it is extremely gratifying to me to know that I'm helping my colleagues in such a meaningful and direct way. If not me, then there's a chance that if they try to represent themselves, that they might end up losing the license, and basically all those years of schooling, all those student loans incurred will have been for nothing. Number two, another aspect of what I do on a regular basis is legislative work. So specifically what I do is, well, one of the things that one of the many hats that I happen to wear is within the state of California, as is the case with every other state in this country, there's a state association of pharmacists. In California, the California Pharmacists Association is one of a couple. I think by way of state association, CPHA is in fact the largest by way of membership numbers. I'm their lawyer. So I happen to be serving as their general counsel. And what I end up doing is this association, the California Pharmacists Association, is particularly politically active. Its headquarters is located in Sacramento, where a lot of the legislative activity and buzz happens, where our state elected officials create new laws every single year. And my job, one of my jobs as GC, the general counsel for the association, is whenever there's a law that comes into a bill in the form of a bill that may have a positive or negative impact on the profession of pharmacy, I'm pulled in to help the association and its lobbyists figure out what is the impact of this potential bill if it were to be made into law. How would it impact pharmacists and the practice of pharmacy, generally speaking? So I bring that to the table, where I'm not necessarily tapping into my legal expertise, but I'm tapping into my experience in the 12 years of pharmacy practice that I have under my belt. Obviously, the legal twist also helps immensely, but that's what I do on a legislative level. Is I kind of roll up my sleeves and sort of hunker down and go through each and every bill that has a potential impact plus or minus on the impact of pharmacists in California, and I put in my 2 cents worth and possibly trying to do what we can to kill the bill or promote the bill, endorse the bill, or amend it in a way that's going to be either better for or at least less offensive to pharmacists in the practice of pharmacy. And lastly, what I find myself doing oftentimes during the course of a workday also is some aspect of education. I find myself giving a lot of teaching a lot of courses in pharmacy law to a number of pharmacy schools in California. I've taught, I think, at 5 of the schools of pharmacy, and I continually have a yearly renewal to teach at least 2 schools of pharmacy. So I directly teach pharmacy law and ethics to pharmacy students, either in their first year, second year, and or third and fourth year of pharmacy school, depending on the student's pharmacy school curriculum. But in addition to teaching pharmacy students, I actually teach pharmacists because as part of continuing education requirements, pharmacists are required to take 30 units of CEs every other year, 2 units of which must be in the areas of law and ethics. That's got to be, provided for by the Board of Pharmacy, and I ended up co-presenting with the executive director of the Board of Pharmacy every year in the new laws review CEs that I oftentimes do. In the world of pharmacy, the laws are truly ever changing. It is a continual evolution of regulations and laws that profoundly sometimes impact the practice of pharmacy, and pharmacists are expected to keep current with it every single year. And the California State Board of Pharmacy, although it does a fantastic job of freely publicizing and making available in a very handy searchable PDF document on its website, the comprehensive text of the pharmacy laws, that law book every single year gets a little bit thicker, a little bit bigger, a little bit longer in volume, which means that you have an ever increasing number of regulations and law that you as future pharmacists are going to be expected to know and know to apply and incorporate within your practice wherever you end up working as a pharmacist. So it's easy to not know, to not stay current. And unfortunately, you've heard this term, ignorance of the law is never an excuse, and that is very much a mantra that the California Board of Pharmacy lives by and practices and enforces with. So I end up giving a lot of continuing education to existing pharmacists on a yearly basis, on a fairly consistent basis, just because the volume of new laws every year is just so expansive. And I try to pick and choose those that have the most impact on the profession of pharmacy, or those laws and regulations that are new or modified that I believe will cause the pharmacist the most grief if they choose not to or they forget to follow it every single year. So again, this is just kind of a bullet point summary of all the things that I've had the pleasure and privilege of experiencing within my career as a pharmacist since graduating from UOP in 1996. And somebody was asking me, and this is a very typical question that's asked by most students, is, should I go into law school immediately after, or maybe even during the same time as pharmacy school? There are some pharmacy schools that offer a joint dual degree program. And basically it's a PharmD and a JD, and you basically meld those 2 curriculums together in some way, shape, or fashion. And at the end of I think a 5 or 6 year period, you end up getting both. I don't think that's, quite frankly, the way that most pharmacists should go. The reason why I say this is that once you get out of law school, the thing that's going to set you apart and special and desired by potential clients, who are going to be pharmacists, pharmacy owners, drug wholesalers, and the like, they're going to be incentivized to look to you as the expert in not only the laws that affect drug distribution and pharmacy, but also look to your personal experience to be able to relate to their situation in their shoes. If you're a newbie that just got your PharmD, JD joint degree with 0 experience under your belt or very limited during your time as a pharmacist intern, chances are that you're not going to be able to relate to what they're talking about. You may on some superficial level, but really being able to appreciate and understand the inner workings of sometimes stuff that goes on behind closed doors, that's going to be the thing that's going to make you relevant and desirable as a practicing pharmacist. So to those that are thinking about the possibility of getting a joint degree, PharmD, JD, I think you need to really do your homework and make sure that that is the right fit for you. I think, however, based upon what I've seen, heard, and read, for the vast majority of people that are thinking about eventually becoming a pharmacist attorney, that probably is not the best fit. Rather, what I would suggest is go to pharmacy school, get your PharmD degree, get some work experience under your belt. It doesn't have to be 12 years, but maybe a handful, and then go back to law school and get your Juris Doctor degree, and then practice pharmacy, and you will be equipped, very adequately equipped to competently represent your client and make a genuinely helpful impact on your peers and colleagues. That's how I would do it. Let's see, shoot, there was something else I wanted to say. I think, oh, it's 6:35. How much time do I have? I have 10 more minutes. Some common questions that I get from pharmacy students, in addition to the one that I just addressed, which is, should I become a PharmD degree, jointly, is, in terms of the what it takes to go through pharmacy school, and then what it takes to go back to school after you've gone through pharmacy school. So depending on what pharmacy school you'll go to, you'll either go through either a 3-year program or a 4-year program. And the end result is going to be a pharmacy doctor degree. You will find yourself incredibly tired of school by that time. You're not going to want to do more school. So it's, from that standpoint, fatigue, educational fatigue will likely kick in. And plus the fact that you will likely have racked up a healthy 6-figure loan from your student loans that you'll be quite anxious to get started on paying right away, as opposed to deferring it even more to rack up another 6-figure plus loan for law school that it typically takes these days to graduate with a JD degree. So from that standpoint, that's yet another reason why you probably don't want to jump right into law school. Work and earn some money and maybe do, pay down a little bit of that student loan that you amassed during pharmacy school, and then go back to law school. Because once you get out of law school, and assuming that you're, going to be, a halfway decent attorney at that time, you will more than make up for the fact that the lost opportunity of having missed those 3+ years of working as a pharmacist. So what I mean by that is, if you stay on a pharmacist salary track without going to law school, as compared to starting as a pharmacist, working for a couple of years, going to law school, amassing student debt, and then working as an attorney, not too long after you get out of law school will you make up for, and more than make up for, the lost opportunity in earning potential that you would have just by working as a pharmacist during the same number of years. So there's, like I said, there's lots of opportunity out there. So let's talk about, what can you do outside of the things that I do, which is representation, legislative stuff, and teaching. Those 3 categories in and of itself are very robust buckets of opportunity for anybody that would seek a PharmD JD combo eventually within your career. Outside of that, however, there is this huge world of compliance. Like I said earlier, there are so many laws and so many regulations that govern the practice of prescription drug distribution that it is incredibly easy to get in trouble with some arm of the government, whether that be a state government or federal government agency. It's so easy to accidentally even stumble on some regulations that you might not even known about. So as a result of that, there are private organizations, not aside from the obvious ones like pharmacies and drug wholesalers. There's the payers, insurances, PBMs, the pharmacy benefits managers. There's also in the private sector, there's pharmaceutical companies that need to stay compliant with all the rules that govern prescription drugs. From the government standpoint, there's huge opportunities from working in the Board of Pharmacy, working in the California Attorney General's office that specializes in prescription drugs and pharmacy practice. There's huge opportunities in the Drug Enforcement Agency, the DEA, as well as the FDA, as well as the Department of Healthcare Services and the Centers for Medicaid and Medicaid Services, and the list goes on and on and on and on. Getting a joint degree, eventually getting a PharmD and then a JD degree will open doors of opportunities, I guarantee you. It's just a matter of you wanting it bad enough to endure the hellish torture of the 3 years of law school after you've already finished 3 or 4 years of pharmacy school. You could choose to do the accelerator route like I did and go to a 2-year JD school, which probably is not the healthiest option. I just did it because I was highly incentivized to finish law school and get started. So I was actually 40. I turned 40 years of age while I was in law school. There are others within this profession of pharmacy law in California that started law even later than I did, and are doing quite well as we speak. So, whether it be representation work, whether it be teaching, whether it be lobbying, whether it be working in associational work, private sector compliance, there's huge opportunities if you can just take it in terms of the 3 years of law school, and then obviously you got to pass the bar as well. And that's a huge undertaking in and of itself. But if you can make it through the, I look at it as kind of like hazing to get into a fraternity, because it's pretty hellish. But if you can stand it and make it through, then you are going to have, I guarantee you, an extremely fulfilling and professionally rewarding career in pharmacy and law. Now, with that, that's my final slide. I will open it to questions, the burning questions that you have as a future potential pharmacist attorney. Should I unshare?
Oh,
You can just leave your information on there so people can see. Yeah, but the slides will also be available on our website if any of the members want to refer to it later. Sorry, did someone have a question? I think I just cut someone off.
Oh, if no one has one now, I do have one. So, Dr. Tony Park, I was wondering, so like you mentioned a lot of working in a lot of government agencies, law firms, or even like private sectors. I was wondering, is having well, this is maybe kind of like a little bit repetitive, but it's kind of having like a JD, a PharmD JD, is the best way to go into administrative work, maybe like in somewhere in your career, or and also do you recommend having like some sort of idea you want to go, if you have some sort of idea you want to go into that field, how else you can prepare without continue your education from PharmD to JD, indirectly?
Sure. So in the world of regulatory compliance, which is a very broad and vast world to be in, you do not need to necessarily have to have a PharmD JD degree. If you get your PharmD degree and you want to get into that world, there are plenty of opportunities in compliance, generally speaking. It's just that once you, it'll just essentially take you longer to get to wherever you want to get eventually if you just have a PharmD degree versus if you have a PharmD plus a JD. It's a time-saving thing where it might take you 15, 20 years to achieve the level of a vice president of compliance at some whatever private sector company that you want to work for, versus if you go into it and you're automatically, and you have with a PharmD JD combination with even a little bit of experience under your belt, that time I would drastically, cut down to maybe a fourth of that. So, it's a matter of cutting a line, so to speak, ahead and in front of all those that don't have a PharmD JD degree. But having said that, it's not as if I didn't go to law school with a specific intent of going out of law school and becoming what I am today in terms of representing pharmacists and pharmacies and drug wholesalers. In fact, I kind of wasn't quite sure what exactly I wanted to do in my first semester of law school. I knew that there was potential to do this thing, but at the time I was equally exploring the possibility of getting into intellectual property law, patents and trademarks and of the like in the world of pharma. Because that's yet another opportunity that I didn't even talk about in this, 30-ish minutes that I was talking a minute ago. There's huge opportunities in that whole sector of, IP, patents and trademarks that you could, explore as a PharmD JD as well. My point is, yes, it is very possible for you to have a very, healthy and robust career in the world of regulatory compliance as a PharmD without the JD. But it's just that, your end goal, whatever that may be, if it's a VP or some executive in some, big company, the path to that end result will be far, far faster if you get the JD after the PharmD.
Okay, thank you.
Anybody else have any questions or comments?
Hi, Dr. Park.
Yes.
I wanted to ask if you were currently working with any California legislator to pass any new pharmacy laws or acts right now?
Yeah, so great question. I'm not currently actively working with any particular state senator or assembly person, but so the way that my function works with the California Pharmacists Association is that the association has its own team of lobbyists that basically go out there, literally, walk into the state capitol, walk into the various elected officials' offices to get the intel, the latest scoop on the things that are, perking people's attention and getting their minds thinking a certain way. And then they kind of grab all that intel and bring it to home base, if you will, and they share that information with me, where we just quickly kind of dissect each and every possible idea, a bill proposal, various pending bills that are in various stages of the bill, rulemaking process and eventually becoming a law. And I basically contribute, like I said earlier, on how I think it will help or hurt the practice of pharmacy and pharmacists in California. But there are times when the association will be at the forefront of creating new laws. Senate Bill 483 back in 2013 or 14 was a perfect example where, for the very first time, pharmacists, as a result of successfully getting that bill passed into law by the governor, was a brand new law created by pharmacists for pharmacists, where now, for the very first time, the end result was pharmacists have the opportunity, after becoming registered pharmacists in California, to now also become something called an advanced practice pharmacist. I'm not sure if you've heard of that term, but advanced practice pharmacist allows for the possibility of initiating, amending, and discontinuing drug therapy, as well as ordering drug-related laboratory testing and the like. So it was an expanded scope of practice law that it ended up actually sticking and working, and got passed into law by the governor. So within that course of that law, I was at the very initial group, part of the initial thought process, and the group of people that formed that law, and I helped draft the wording of the law and address any sort of pushback from the various opposing stakeholders, being namely nurses and the physicians of California. There was some negotiating and some jostling of words behind dealing with those guys. But yeah, that's probably a good example where that's a great example of an idea sparking the mind of a couple of pharmacists saying, hey, maybe we can do this thing. And then it actually grew and morphed into this actual law, where now the end result is pharmacists have this expanded scope of practice to become what's the so-called advanced practice pharmacist, which before 2013 was not a thing. So, but in terms of working with that particular bill was Senator Ed Hernandez, who's actually an optometrist himself, who actually really liked pharmacy and pharmacists, and he was instrumental in working with him and his office members and staff to make the bill pass and turn into law. That was a very exciting process.
Thank you.
So Dr. Oh, sorry.
Not sure who talked. Go ahead.
Do you want to go, Ryan? You can go.
No, I don't have any question.
Oh, okay. Dr. Park, you mentioned that you went to law school a lot later in your life. Was it difficult going back to school after already having experienced a job as a pharmacist?
It was difficult only in the sense that, well, the academic portion of it actually was not. I enjoyed it. I actually enjoyed going back into an academic setting and being a student again. And the hard part really was the toll that it took on my family. So at the time, I had 3 little kids, and my now ex-wife. And by the way, I won't get too much into this, but you don't get something for nothing. I guess that's a general universal truth. And the cost for me in going to law school, coming out, and being able to do what I did was my marriage, unfortunately, did not do so well. Not to say that you can't have it all. I think it's very possible, but the time and the sheer effort that it took for me to go through law school in 2 years instead of the normal 3 years, that took a toll. I mean, it's just time, personal time, and I guess that goes to a broader life lesson where anything that is really worthwhile, it takes something by way of a sacrifice. Finding that fine family, life balance. And I know that most of you probably don't have families. I don't know, maybe some of you do, but I think one important lesson that I've learned that I can kind of share with future professionals is there's a risk that you incur by striving for more. And so that risk is, for me, was I guess the sheer time and effort and attention away from my family at the time, to basically make it through law school. It was very hard in the sense that trying to balance that fine tightrope between succeeding, not even succeeding in law school, but just passing my classes in law school, with the time and attention required by my family. Was a hard thing to pull, and I don't think it worked as well as I would have liked, but it was hard in that sense. But the academic portion of it was not that bad. The bar exam is hell. There's no pulling punches. The bar exam is extremely hard, but it's supposed to be a little bit easier now. It once was a 3-day exam. Now it's just a 2-day exam. But the bar exam, that was probably one of the hardest exams I've ever taken in my entire life. I had to take it twice, to truth be told. The first time I was like this close to passing, which really motivated me, got me angrier to study even harder for the second time. But I passed the bar exam, thank goodness, the second time, and eventually became an attorney, and I do that now. But yeah, you can't neglect your loved ones and your family. That's a life lesson that I would encourage you to not ignore.
Hi, Dr. Park. I was wondering if you could give us like a little bit more insight on your experience after law school. So I know that you mentioned there are so many opportunities for you to make up what you lost by attending law school. So I wanted to ask if you ever had like any sense of worry after you got out of law school to find any clients or cases?
That's a great question. So I think, so lawyers are a dime a dozen. What I mean by that is there's so many lawyers, probably too many lawyers already in society, definitely within California. There are just too many lawyers, and there's a lot of reasons for that. And quite frankly, statistically, a good, at least half of the attorneys that end up passing the bar exam in their respective states, eventually, within a handful of years of getting the bar card, do not end up practicing law. Quite frankly, because there are too many attorneys in society. Knowing that, you've got to do something to set yourself apart from the clump of just generic attorneys. And that's where your PharmD is going to shine. I guarantee it. It's going to shine and really make you stand out from the rest of the crowd. And so my experience was, like I said, when I went into law school, I wasn't quite sure what exactly I wanted to do. But by the time I had completed my law school, well, the second year of law school, which was by my second year, because I was getting so many calls from my friends, my peers, my colleagues in pharmacy, that's when I thought, wow, maybe instead of intellectual property, patents, and trademarks, I can get into pharmacy law. And so I kind of took a leap of faith. And instead of moving to North Carolina to Research Triangle, that was where I was going to think about going to practice intellectual property law, I headed west back to Orange County and started getting my experience within pharmacy law. By the way, like pharmacy school, they don't teach you in law school any one specific area of law. So just as a way of a reveal, in pharmacy school, you learn a little bit about everything, but you don't learn specifically about one thing. In other words, if you want to get out of pharmacy school as a PharmD and go directly into ambulatory care or infectious disease or intense ER, they don't teach you that in pharmacy school. Not until you finish pharmacy school and get a residency or some other type of experience do you then find yourself going down that path. Similarly, in law school, every single person that gets a Juris Doctor degree from wherever law school they go to, they don't learn about any one particular area of law. It's not as if they have a path for the personal injury attorneys or the bankruptcy attorneys or whatever. So obviously there was no path for me to follow in terms of pharmacy law. So once I got my generic Juris Doctor degree and once I got my generic bar card after passing the bar exam, I then had to find somebody or some place where I can get some experience in pharmacy law, given the fact that I had no clue what this was about. And I found, I did a lot of digging, I did a lot of digging and searching, and I found my guy down in San Diego. And so like, you know, presumably for some of you that are going to be interested in going into this field of whatever it is you want to get into, don't expect your PharmD degree or even your JD, Juris Doctor degree, to get you to the place where you're ready to jump in and hit the ground running in whatever field of practice you want to do. No, you need to find a mentor to help you, at least for a little while, get your feet wet and get acclimated into that specific area of practice you want to do. Then you basically learn as fast and as much as you can, and then you just go at it afterwards. There was a lot of fortune and luck, quite frankly, in me being able to find my mentor down in California, down in San Diego, that allowed me to sort of get my feet wet and hit the ground running. By the time he retired, I was then knowledgeable just enough to start my own practice and as a solo practitioner.
Thank you.
Any other questions? I charge $550 an hour, so you're getting me at a great low cheap rate right now of $0 per hour. So you should ask questions while you can.
Do you have any cases that you worked on that you would want to share with us?
Oh gosh. I mean, so most of my cases involve the Board of Pharmacy, where the pharmacist in charge or the pharmacy owner will be alleged by the Board of Pharmacy of having committed usually a multitude of laws and regulations that govern the practice. And there's a lot of technicalities involved in pharmacy. I mean, because you're dealing with this, prescription drugs and opioids and narcotics, which includes the Vicodins, Norcos, morphines, Adderalls of the world that are very easy to get in trouble with if you mess up on the procedure of things. It's very easy to step into a mistake or have others around you take advantage of you as a pharmacist. A lot of pharmacists, quite frankly, I've noticed, a lot of pharmacists get into pharmacy for really the right reasons. You want to help people. You want to have a positive, meaningful impact on your local community as a healthcare provider. Very noble stuff. But pharmacists are notoriously naive, and they're usually overly trusting, that I find. And so as a result, you sort of go into the profession with a set of personality traits that makes you suspect or susceptible rather to people taking advantage of you, whether that be your boss, whether that be your own coworkers, whether that be some sort of outside influence. And so because you're trying to do the right thing, sometimes, some of you, by you, I don't mean you guys, but generally speaking, more generically, categorically, this group of pharmacists, they get into a lot of trouble because they sometimes they just don't know how to say no. That's a generality. I can't get into any specific, but I can tell you one case where I thought for sure the guy was going to lose his license. Sometimes the pressure of the job really gets to you. And in one case I had years ago, I had a gentleman whom I was representing. He was a pharmacy manager / PIC, and he just snapped one day. He just couldn't take it anymore. And so he ended up committing a bunch of crimes, let's just say. And the police found him in his home with a crack pipe and a gun. And it turned out that he had just had it with the pressures of being a pharmacy manager, a super busy operation, and he just couldn't take it anymore. But the reason why he found himself in that place in the first place was because he just couldn't say no to his employers. He just couldn't say no to his coworkers. He was always giving, and he was just, quite frankly, being stepped all over on a day in, day out basis. And because of that, he came to a point where he just couldn't give anymore, and he was very despondent about the fact that people whom he thought were his friends and people that cared about him ended up not. And he was very shell-shocked, quite frankly. And so he kind of went to this downward spiral of depression and I'd say momentary psychoses, quite frankly. where he ended up doing a lot of bad things. He went to jail, and then the board of after he basically fortunately had a good criminal defense attorney, and then once that criminal defense case was resolved, then the board of pharmacy kind of it was their time to step up and basically attack his license as a pharmacist, and that's when he pulled me into the picture, and I was able to portray him as a pharmacist, like I just described to you, as a guy that was just a good guy who was just giving too much, and at some point he just snapped in a way that was completely inconsistent with how he had behaved prior to this series of I actually described it as a momentary psychosis, and the judge agreed. And so fortunately he got some help. He got some medical help and some counseling, a lot of counseling. And I am glad to report that he is a productive pharmacist now, back to in a much slower pharmacy with much less stress, and he's learning to say no more. So he's in a much better place than he was. But that's one example of where, again, kind of tying into my idea of doing something meaningful. I thought for sure, and he had teenage kids that needed support through college, and he had a wife that was on the verge of leaving him. Just everything was falling and crumbling in his life around him. And this, I don't know what he would have done if the Board of Pharmacy took his license away to practice as a pharmacist. But fortunately, we didn't have to find that out, because the Board of Pharmacy, rather the judge in this case, basically agreed with our side, and basically he was on probation for a couple of years, and like I said, he got a lot of counseling, a lot of intervention by healthcare professionals. But now he's in a much better place, and knock on wood, he's doing good. But that's probably one of the more extreme examples that I've dealt with. I deal with a lot of crazy pharmacists, I will tell you, quite frankly. Sometimes pharmacists are just like any other profession. You've got your good ones, you've got your not so good ones, and you have your crazy ones. And that's just the nature of what I do on a day and basis. Is I sometimes get the crazy ones just because they have no place else to turn. But that's, I guess, the glass half full way of looking at it is it makes my life very colorful on a daily basis. So I choose to look at it that way. But I'm very fortunate. I feel very privileged to be able to do what I do.
Alrighty, thank you so much for coming to speak today and for sharing your experiences. And thank you, Dr. Sushi Park, for coming and attending. This will be the conclusion of the meeting. Thank you everyone for coming today. We hope that you got to learn a lot from this presentation. I'm sure I did. Thank you.
Pleasure.
Thank you very much. Yeah. It was